I started learning some of these tricks about how I can make my money
Yeah.
buy more things than it was intended to do, how
Mm.
I could defeat inflation, how I could take my wife on fabulous vacations for pennies on the dollar, just on my normal spending,
Yeah.
and paying my things off the way I shouldn't be and responsible with the very same money that I have.
Yeah.
That's it. It just opened my world.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Calvin Russell here. Super excited to bring you all yet another guest speaker. Now, he has not been on this channel in quite some time, but listen, when we interviewed him last year, you guys begged me to bring him back. He talked to you all about the breakdown of the 524 rule with Chase Bank. This is Mr. Chase. This is Mr. American Express. So listen, get your notepads out. You got to get this information. He doesn't have a lot of time per usual, okay? But either way, he was able to carve out time from his own channel, his family as well, too, just to stop by today and give you guys a gem. So, of course, without any further ado, want to reintroduce you all to Chad. So, Chad, are you with us today, sir?
Yes, sir. And thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be back.
Absolutely. Absolutely, man. Absolutely. So, listen, let's get right into it. Of course, my audience, they love to, learn about a lot of different things, especially with credit unions and banks and American Express, and the list goes on. Okay. But let's go ahead and break some things down because I'm noticing that my audience, they're growing with me. When I started this channel, I was in my 20s. Now, of course, I'm in my 30s, getting closer to my 40s. But there's a lot of people who watch my channel that they're in their upper 30s, their 40s, their 50s, and they're tired of, like, like you've mentioned this, the cookie cutter credit card stuff. Let's go ahead and get into some grown folks talk about credit cards. So what's your perspective on that?
Absolutely. Credit cards, credit vehicles, financial vehicles are for everybody. They're not
Right.
just for the 18 to 20 fresh out of college crowd. I myself, I'm in my lower 40s, even though you can't tell by the grays, that's what the four kids will do to you. But,
Yeah.
I've lived life. I've
Yeah.
had poor credit scores. I've made
Yeah.
horrible financial decisions.
Yeah.
I've been through it, paid the daycare, put myself through school. And what
Mm.
I do is I give perspectives based on my life as I live it,
Yeah.
not as, some sort of made up thing that, I aspire to be. I just keep it real with my audience.
Absolutely. And I'm so glad you mentioned that because, a lot of people, we've gone through life and it goes by so fast, and what I like about that is that, that's real because a lot of people, man, we've made those mistakes, right? In our 20s or whatever time frame that was, or some people making those mistakes right now and they're just trying to figure out how can they get out of that. So what are some of your perspectives that people should have in general when they have credit cards and now they're in that that upper age range?
Well, for me, when I speak to people in my cohort, that's what I
Yeah.
call them, I understand that they already know what a credit card is.
Right.
They've been introduced, but they might not have the right attitudes. On my channel, I can't really reinvent the credit card application, but I want people to be the most discerning credit
Yeah.
card holder that they possibly can be.
Yeah.
So, the first thing I would say for one of my key perspectives is to look at money differently.
Mm.
Come at it from an investor's mindset as opposed to a consumer's mindset, because a lot
Yeah.
of people don't realize that the power in money is in circulation, not in
Yeah.
accumulation. So,
Mm.
everybody's always in this race to try to get as much as possible. But then when
Yeah.
they get it, they don't really know what to do with it. And
Right.
that's where I come in.
Real quick, did you know that you can add your monthly subscription services like Netflix or Disney Plus, or even your cell phone bill to your credit report to improve your credit score? All you got to do is just scan this QR code or click the link in the description below to learn more. Now back to the video. That's right. Absolutely. They got the money, but they have no idea, or they may not have some idea of what to do with it. Or sometimes they already have a relationship or some accounts with a lot of these banks, and they just don't know how to truly maximize that. But let's go ahead and go right into it. So you talked about something else recently as well too, and that was like the credit card end games, right? And now,
Mhm.
when does it end, or is there a certain amount of credit cards you should have? What's your perspective on just on that entire perspective in general?
Well, for credit card end games, you have to know that when something has a beginning, it
Yeah,
always must have an end, or else you'll find yourself on a hamster wheel that can
yeah,
really end up being to your detriment. They have
yeah.
entire systems to keep you spending and keep you
Mm,
paying interest and fees and so on and so forth. When I talk about the credit card end game, it's a time when for your specific situation that you have enough. That could be five credit cards, that could
yeah,
be three. The average American at last count, I do believe, have like 11. You know what I
Mm,
mean? And a lot of times they
yeah,
don't have a plan that goes with that. So
no,
then that creates the hamster wheel. I
yeah,
myself have way more than the average American, but
mm,
I am in my end game where I'm not putting out applications like that anymore.
yeah,
Now it's all about maximizing what I have and
yeah.
using it, bringing it to bear with the greatest efficacy that I possibly can.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you know what? Like you mentioned, a lot of people don't have, or they have a certain amount of cards, but they just don't
Mhm.
know what strategy just to have with it because people get stuff in the mail. I like to call it good credit problems where you have a certain score. I mean, my wife and I, we get stuff in the mail all the time, but for people that
Absolutely.
don't know how the process works or how the game works, that stuff just keeps coming in and it's going to say, hey, apply for this. You got to prove for this and things of that sort. So you just don't want to get caught up, in having more than you should, for sure. And one of those banks, I mean, obviously there's a lot of banks out there. I said, you're the king of the knowledge of Chase Bank and American Express. Now, how many cards have you at this point now have you decided to keep? I know you canceled some along the way, but how many do you have now?
Well, right now I'm hovering around 30. I haven't done
Wow.
a count in a
Yeah.
while, but I have quite a few spread across quite a few banks.
Yeah, got you, got you. And now, what makes you want to have? Obviously, I'm sure you never really probably had a goal necessarily, or it could have been a goal, but you probably, of course, years ago, you probably didn't see yourself going from not having the best credit. Kind of walk us through that from not having the best credit to now having over 30 credit cards and these relationships with major financial institutions.
Well, what I did was coming up in my 20s, I try to be as independent as possible.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? And I did not understand credit. My first credit card, which was a Capital One card, and then
yeah,
my next one right after that was a Discover card. I've had both for over 20 years,
mm,
maxed them both out, and then I was able to recover from that.
yeah,
Then I did it again. Then I was able to buy my first house, and that's what really put me on the path to understanding that
yeah,
money isn't just for buying whims. You know
yeah,
what I mean? And then once I realized money wasn't, just for whimsical purchases, and I
yeah,
understood that I can put money to work for me and I can
yeah,
leverage my good name, i.e., my credit,
yeah,
in order to get things that I otherwise couldn't.
yeah.
That's what put me off to the races. So then when I had had spurious relationships with credit cards. But then once I started really investigating on YouTube, watching other creators,
Mm.
and
Real quick, be sure to download our free ebook today. All you got to do is scan this QR code right here or click the link in the description below. Now back to the video.
I started learning some of these tricks about how I can make my money
Yeah.
buy more things than it was intended to do, how
Mm.
I could defeat inflation, how I could take my wife on fabulous vacations for pennies on the dollar, just on my normal spending,
Yeah.
and paying my things off the way I shouldn't be, and responsible with the very same money that I have.
Yeah.
That's it. It just opened my world.
Absolutely. Man, that's very key. And what? And sometimes we have those moments. For you, it was, that eye-opening moment, having obviously, buying the home. And sometimes it's for people, it could be bankruptcy, it could be, obviously, or having a car gets totaled. Now they're in a situation where they got to get another car, and I think people have those, as Jim Rohn would say, for those who listen to Jim Rohn, the day that turns your life around, and it's so key because it's like, okay, I need to know more about this. And now, of course, you transition, and you had a lot of these types of credit cards, but recently you talked about one bank in particular, and that's American Express. Now, you call it the American Express pop-up jail and
Mhm.
other roadblocks that may have as well too. Tell us about what is the Amex pop-up jail?
Well, the Amex pop-up jail is an internal control that they have is based on your credit history, your credit behavior,
Mm,
your culture. What they will do is actually they will exclude you from the
mm,
sign-up bonuses for their cards. Now,
mm.
Amex is notorious for having, high annual fees,
Yeah,
but the points that they distribute, the points that you can earn with them are actually very valuable due to their travel partners. So a
yeah.
lot of people will apply to Amex cards for their juicy sign up bonuses in
Mhm.
order to get a head start to try to start leveraging some of those currencies, to make their life easier.
Yeah.
But people like me, optimizers like myself, sometimes we get hit with that internal control, and all banks have them. The 524 rule is
Yeah.
Chase's internal control. And what that will do is throttle down the amount of people who can take advantage of cards in ways that the credit card companies might not want them to.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. And then when that does happen, is there a way to get out of that? Like if people have messed that up or have done something a certain way, is there a way to get out of there or are they kind of bucketed in a sense?
Well, no, the bucket is definitely a Capital One thing. They have cornered the market on that. But with Amex pop-up jail and with other internal controls,
Mhm.
it's much easier to quantify with Chase because it's just a waiting game. With
Yeah.
Amex, it's been a little harder. Some people say that they have the ticket out. I haven't
Mm.
seen it
Yeah.
proven beyond a shadow of a doubt.
Mm.
But one thing about Amex that is no secret, they love people who spend, who
Yeah.
swipe their cards. And
Mm.
if you collect a bunch of Amex cards that you just use for the sign up bonus and throw them in a sock drawer, you're not going to make any friends there. So
Mm.
why are we going to keep giving you our points when we're not getting anything from it? So
Yeah.
I've found that definitely spending, and I am blessed enough. My wife, she too has Amex cards. She's kind of a little bit of an enthusiast, not to my level, and we can
Yeah.
refer each other, bounce those things off of each other. And sometimes I'm in jail, so she has to, get the sign up bonus and
Yeah.
vice versa.
Got you. Got you. And you know what? Obviously you walk into these situations with a strategy. What are some of your strategies that for like maintaining, all those credit cards? I mean, 30 credit cards. I mean, I'm sure some people are watching this right now and like, man, there's no way I could keep up with something like that. What are some strategies that you have just to try to maintain all of that?
Well, number one is you always have to spend with intention.
Mm,
Always. Spending just to spend, it just never works. I don't
mm,
care who you are.
yeah.
You could be me, you could be you could be an entire country. If you are not spending with the intent of getting the maximum value and understanding that companies and firms, they market products, but they sell value.
Yeah.
That's what they do. Credit card companies, same exact thing.
Yeah.
Understand that having credit cards is not automatically going into debt any more than buying a car is automatically going to get you into a car accident.
Yeah.
Choices have to be made. You have to be accountable for your choices. And one rule of thumb I like to use, especially with all the credit that I have, is when I make a purchase, big, small, or whatever, I
Yeah.
ask myself, is this something I'm going to use
Yeah.
every day for the next 7 days? If not, chances are I don't need it. Unless
Mm,
it's food or an emergency, chances are I probably don't need it if I'm not going to use it for the next 7 days. If I buy a pair of shoes and I'm not going to wear them every day for the next 7 days,
right.
this is a want, not a need.
Yeah.
And that can really hone in on some of your spending habits because then you start realizing, what am I really doing with my money? How am I making my money work for me?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. How am I making my money work for me? And I don't think people ask that question enough, to be honest, especially, even outside of like, the credit card world and things of that sort. There's things that people should think about, just in general, because obviously we spend our money, for sure. But you know what? Let's transition because obviously you have people that, I mean, not just people that just watch my channel or yours, but there are people who obviously have their personal credit and then there are people who, they have their businesses, whether it's business credit related or not. But you also did a video, and I thought that it was a very good topic to discuss today. And that is why business credit cards may not be for you. And let's talk about that. Why do you feel that way? That some people should, consider and say, listen, maybe I shouldn't get this business credit card.
Well, I've seen the proliferation of a lot of people on a bunch of online platforms saying you can get X amount of $1,000 with no
Yeah.
docs and all of this stuff like as if for some reason money is free. Money
Right.
is not free. And people will advertise business credit as though it
Yeah.
won't affect your personal credit. But a lot of them fail to mention that you are the personal, it's called a guarantor. You guarantee that business, especially
That's
a
right.
business that nobody knows.
Hmm.
And you can get business credit cards, run them up, and it's what I call it debt coupons because you will
Mm.
destroy your credit at a 2 for 1 basis. You will get a deal. You will destroy both your personal and your business credit.
Mm,
So, like, I just don't want people to be confused. It's not just TransUnion, Experian, Equifax out there. You got to
yeah,
worry about LexisNexis. You have to worry about Dun and Bradstreet. You have to worry about Paydex. You have to worry about a lot of these other people that
yeah,
you may not have heard of, especially if you're following someone and you don't have a real business. Because
that's
also,
right.
people forget the IRS because they're watching as well. So
Listen.
you definitely want to be careful with that and stay above board with it.
Yeah, stay above board. And I think that, obviously the people who watch my channel, they're in the upper, they're in the 30s, their 40s, their 50s. So my point is they're not really going to be making a lot of those mistakes, but there are people out here and that's their agenda on purpose to quote unquote try to get the money for free and not pay it back or whatever the case may be. And they're really damaging the industry overall. That's a whole nother video, you know. But that's key, and I think that people don't pay attention to things like that, especially as they are along their credit card journey in general. So, well, listen, you know what? Now, I did want to mention some other things too. It's been a lot of changes with American Express annual fees and things of that sort. You've obviously been an advocate, for American Express, or at least a fan, I should say, of Amex for quite some time. What are your thoughts on all the changes that's been happening with annual fees and such?
Well, I see that Amex, and I've said it before, I see that they are now whale hunting.
Mm,
What a lot when I say I try to let people know to look at money differently, people have been hurting in the economy. There's no
mm,
question about that.
yeah,
When you look at the current geopolitical landscape, the current socioeconomical landscape, people are saying that they're hurting. But a lot of people don't understand that
mm,
those who are well off are doing better than they've ever done before.
mm,
Their wealth has grown exponentially while the rest of us maybe not so much. So
yeah,
Amex is looking for that kind of money. And
mm,
before there was a time where we were all in the house and people had to kind of open the floodgates,
yeah,
maybe for folks who may or may not default or may not be their target customer. But I can
yeah,
definitely tell Amex is hunting whales and they are trying to literally pair people off in order to get those people who will make the $1,000, $2,000 swipes once, twice a week and
yeah.
have the money to pay for it. That's really where I see them going. I get tremendous value from their points. I'm not independently wealthy, but I use this in order to get as much value as I can.
That's right. Absolutely. And it's just getting all the value that you can, especially with a company like American Express, along the way. So listen, Chad, listen, for those who don't know, Chad breaks this stuff down on his YouTube channel on a regular basis. Okay. So if you guys haven't done so already, I've been putting it down at the bottom of the screen. Make sure you guys go ahead and check out his YouTube channel. He breaks down not just of course, American Express, Chase Bank, but of the other brands that he not only has on a personal level, but that he has new information on. So make sure you guys go ahead and check out his channel. So again, thanks again, Chad, for being here. Is there anything that you want to share with the audience before we get out of here today?
Well, one thing I can say is sometimes it pays to take a step back.
Mm,
Take a step back and understand that you working for your money isn't the only way life's supposed to go.
yeah,
Put your money to work for you. It never needs to sleep, it never needs a vacation, and it never takes a break. You
mm,
figure that part out, and it'll make your life easier.
that's right. Absolutely. Man, you over here reading the money Bible over here. Okay. But thanks again, Chad. We greatly appreciate you stopping by the channel today, sir. Great. Thanks again.
My pleasure, and thank you for having me.
Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys on the next video.